My parents stole my inheritance. I waited 10 years to get it back. Posted by You Throwaway Trust Fall. I never thought I'd end up writing something like this, and I honestly wish I didn't have a reason to. But after everything that's happened, it feels wrong not to put it somewhere. I spent 10 years swallowing this, convincing myself I was imagining things, convincing myself that what I felt was normal. Now that it's over, the silence feels heavier than the noise ever did. When I was 18, my parents stole my inheritance. I didn't know at the time. I didn't suspect it. I trusted them completely because they were my parents and because I didn't yet understand that sometimes the people who talk the most about sacrifice are the ones quietly benefiting from yours. My grandfather was my mom's father, and growing up, he was the only adult who ever treated me like I was a real person. My parents weren't abusive in an obvious way. There were no dramatic blow-ups, no police calls, no teachers pulling me aside. Everything was subtle. Affection came with expectations. Praise came with conditions. Love always felt like something I had to earn by being easy, quiet, and grateful. My grandfather didn't do that. He listened. He remembered things I told him. He showed up. He treated me like someone who would eventually have a life of my own. While I was with him, I felt seen in a way I never did at home. He died when I was 17, and it shattered me. At the funeral, I remember standing next to my parents, watching them cry, and thinking that at least we were all grieving together. That whatever complicated feelings I had about my family, this loss was something we shared. That belief didn't survive adulthood. A few months after I turned 18, my parents sat me down at the kitchen table. It felt formal in a way that made my stomach drop. My dad had papers in front of him. My mom kept folding and unfolding her hands. I thought I was in trouble. They told me my grandfather had left me some money. Not much, they said. They explained that estates were expensive, lawyers were expensive, and raising a child wasn't cheap either. According to them, whatever money there had been was already gone, absorbed into the cost of my upbringing. They said it like it was the most reasonable thing in the world. They told me I should be grateful, that some kids get nothing, that they could have asked me to contribute more while I was growing up, that adulthood meant standing on my own feet and not expecting handouts. I nodded. I thanked them. I felt guilty for even wondering if things could have been different. That conversation shaped the next 10 years of my life. I worked full-time while going to community college because it was all I could afford. I skipped meals to make rent. I lived with roommates who came and went in apartments that never really felt safe or stable. I dropped classes when my work schedule got unpredictable. Every setback felt like a personal failure, proof that I just wasn't trying hard enough. Whenever I mentioned struggling, my parents had a way of shutting it down without ever raising their voices. They told me this was normal, that they struggled too. That hardship built character. If I hinted at needing help, they reminded me how expensive it was to raise a child, how much they'd already done for me. Meanwhile, their lives kept getting more comfortable. They renovated their kitchen. They bought a new SUV. They went on international vacations and posted smiling photos. They talked about investments and retirement plans. Every time I visited, there was something new in the house. Better furniture, nicer appliances, small upgrades that added up to a very different life than the one I was living. I told myself I was being resentful. I told myself I wasn't entitled to anything. I told myself life just wasn't fair. Eventually, I stopped asking for help at all. 10 years passed like that. I survived, but I never felt secure. Every unexpected expense sent me into a spiral. I lived with a constant, quiet fear that one bad month would ruin me completely. Then my grandmother died. At her funeral, while people were milling around afterward, one of my relatives came up to me. We weren't close. We barely spoke over the years. She hugged me and told me my grandfather would be so proud of me. I thanked her, assuming it was just something polite people say at funerals. Then she added, especially with how you handle the trust. I laughed because I thought she was mistaken. I told her there was no trust. She looked genuinely confused and said, of course there was. He talked about it constantly. He wanted you taken care of. That moment is burned into my memory. The room felt too loud and too quiet at the same time. My heart was pounding, and all I could think was that she had to be wrong. She wasn't. I didn't confront my parents. Not that day. Not the next week. Something in me knew that if I went in angry and emotional, I'd get nothing but denial and manipulation. Instead, I waited. I contacted the law firm that handled my grandfather's estate. I expected them to shut me down. I expected to be told the records were confidential or long gone. They didn't hesitate. They confirmed my name. They confirmed the trust existed. When the documents arrived, my hands were shaking so badly I had to sit down. The trust was real. Just over $180,000. Meant to be held until I turned 18, then used for my education, housing, a general welfare. My parents were listed as trustees. The disbursement records told the rest of the story. The money hadn't gone to my education. It hadn't gone to my rent. It hadn't gone to anything with my name on it at all. It had been transferred slowly and deliberately into accounts belonging to my parents. They drained it over 3 years. I sat on my couch staring at those pages for a long time. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I just felt hollow. Suddenly, every conversation from my childhood made sense. Every guilt trip, every reminder of how much I cost them, every excuse for why they couldn't help me now. They hadn't just taken my money. They had rewritten reality, so I'd never question it. I spoke to multiple lawyers. I learned about statutes of limitations, fiduciary duty, and how difficult it can be to recover stolen trust funds. I also learned that the worst thing I could do was tip my parents off too early. So I didn't. For nearly 2 years, I acted exactly the same. Holidays, polite conversations, listening to my mom complain about money while wearing jewelry bought with mine, listening to my dad talk about how hard he'd worked for everything he had. They had no idea. Behind the scenes, I gathered everything. Bank records, trust documents, timelines, evidence showing how my life had gone during the same years they were emptying the trust. When my lawyer finally said we were ready, I felt calm in a way that surprised me. They were served papers on a Tuesday. My mother called screaming within the hour. She accused me of betrayal, of being ungrateful, of trying to destroy the family. My father left a voicemail telling me I was selfish and cruel, and that my grandfather would be ashamed of me. I saved every message. The courtroom was smaller than I expected. Fluorescent lights, hard chairs, no drama, just permanence. When my parents walked in, they didn't look at me. For the first time in my life, they looked unsure. My lawyer laid everything out slowly. Dates, amounts, transfers. She explained what fiduciary duty meant, that a trustee is legally obligated to act in the beneficiary's best interest. Then she showed the records. Transfer after transfer, thousands at a time, money moving from the trust into my parents' accounts. When she mentioned that during those same years I had been working 2 jobs and skipping meals, my chest tightened. Not anger, validation. The judge asked my parents if they disputed the records. They didn't. My mother cried. She said she never meant to hurt me. That parenting didn't come with a handbook, but they'd planned to help me eventually. The judge asked if there was documentation of that intent. There wasn't. My father said they didn't think I could handle that kind of money responsibly at 18. The judge asked him a single question. Did you ever tell your child that trust existed? He said no. The courtroom went silent. The settlement came weeks later. I recovered most of the money, plus interest. Not all of it. Some was gone forever. They had to admit wrongdoing in writing. They left through a side door. I walked out alone. When the money hit my account, I stared at it for hours, half expecting it to disappear. I paid off my debts. I finished my degree. I moved into an apartment that felt safe. Then came the fallout. Extended family reached out. Some supported me. Others said I'd gone too far. That family mattered more than money. No one asked what it felt like to find out your parents lied to you for a decade. My parents emailed. Long apologies that centered their pain. No real accountability. I didn't respond. The final attempt was a handwritten letter. My mom said she missed me. Said family should forgive. I threw it away. Forgiveness doesn't mean access. Now my life is quieter. Better. I plan instead of panic. I breathe. I don't feel victorious. I feel resolved. The hardest part wasn't the lawsuit or the waiting. It was realizing my parents never thought I was smart enough to figure it out. They taught me how to survive. They just didn't realize they were teaching me how to outlast them.